Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's Monday Motivation, which is called How to Do Things Differently. Now, have you done anything recently that you have worried or feared that you could have done differently, would have liked to have done differently, wish you'd done differently, wish you could have started all over again? So, the purpose of this week's Monday Motivation is to share a little thought process or something that you can do to help you do things differently the next time. So I want to start by sharing a story with you. When I was a small child, and I must have been about six, when I was a small child of about 6 years old, I went on holiday to Barbados. And when I was there, it was my sister's birthday. So my hair is sticking up this morning, so do forgive me. I don't know, I've got some sort of funny kink that I must have slept on my hair funny. So I went to Barbados as this small child, and it was my sister's birthday, and my aunt made her the most amazing birthday cake. Even as a child, I hadn't seen anything like this before. So I remember being so amazed, so stunned at this cake. It was just, it blew my mind, and not just because of my age, but it was the most amazing cake. And I remember thinking to myself, even as a child, when I grow up, I want to make cakes just like that. I want to be able to make cakes just like that. Well, the irony was that as I got older, I did make cakes like this. Now this cake, if you imagine, was like a doll standing up with a big skirt, and the big flowing skirt was actually the cake, and it was all beautifully decorated, and my sister loved this cake. I loved it even more, not because I wanted to eat it. Hello Ian, thank you for joining. It's good to see you here this Monday. Not just because I wanted to eat it, but just because I wanted to understand how this cake was made. Now you might be thinking, well, what on earth has this got to do with doing things differently? So let me share something with you, which when I learned this technique many years ago was called the learning question. So before we go into this, just 10 minutes of motivation, can I ask, is there anything that you have done recently or something that you want to do, and you want to do it in a different way that you've done it before? Or put another way, is there something that you want to do that you found is holding you back? And I'm just going to acknowledge Ian. He's saying good morning, hope I had a great birthday weekend. Yes, it was my birthday yesterday and I had a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much, Ian. I hope you did too. Saw you had some great achievements over the weekend, and your daughter did some really great things as well. So how do we go from doing something that we want to do right now, something that we want to plan, something we want to achieve? Maybe it's a goal, maybe it's an ambition, maybe it's a different perspective. Maybe you are on the commute going to work, or you're getting ready to go to work, and there's something that you're trying to solve in your mind. Maybe it's like a problem or something that you want to do very, very, very differently at work. It could be something you want to do differently in your own business, or it could be something you want to do differently in your own life. So introducing to you this morning something that I call the learning question. So if you can and you're not driving, I just want you to write down these letters. W, W, I, D for Delta, D for Delta, N for November, T for Tango. So that's W, W, I, D for dog, D for dog again, N for November, and T for Tango. Now, here's what this question means. What would I do differently next time? What would I do differently next time? This question is one of the most helpful questions to help you see things differently, do things differently. But there's something really important about this question. Quite often, when we perceive that we've done something quote unquote wrong, the first question we will tend to ask ourselves as a pattern of habit is, how can I do it better? You know, where did I go wrong? The problem with that question is that a lot of the time, when we ask ourselves that question, you know, where did we go wrong and how can we do things differently, we're actually beating ourselves up. And what this does for us is it gives us a kind of like an undercurrent, an undertone that we've done something wrong, which isn't exactly the most motivating way to go forward. By asking the question, what would I do differently next time? This starts to open up lots of possibilities, and quite often possibilities of things that you hadn't perhaps thought of before. Let me give you another example of this. So many, many years ago, when I first started my business, believe it or not, and some of you will know this, that not only did I do the training and coaching on one hand, I actually made cakes and chocolates. I decided when I started my business then, it would be a good way to have a couple of different revenue streams. And a lot of people couldn't get their head around a coaching and training business that also made cakes and chocolates. But trust me, there were some really great synergies, especially if I was delivering training corporately and the delegates were lucky enough to get these very sort of lovely handmade homemade chocolates, but handmade chocolates or cakes or cupcakes or anything else like that. So I remember I wanted to do this this kind of like little mini exhibition. It was a thing that was happening a few weeks before Christmas. It was a really great opportunity to get my products and services in front of the clients, and I thought, why not? I'll put my cakes and chocolates out there, and I'll also offer my coaching and training services out there. And this was back in 2010. And I remember getting really excited, getting everything ready, making flyers. I even made little tasters of the chocolates. I made tasters of the cakes, and I decided, because it was it was more like a kind of a fair, not quite a craft fair per se, but it was a fair where these businesses went along and they showcased what they did. So they had like web designers, they had people that sold like kind of like graphic design. They had people that sold toys, all sorts of retail businesses and service-based businesses. And I remember I went there, I'd been up for days, like 4 hours sleep a night. I'd baked loads of cakes that I could sell from this craft fair so that people could take them away. I made tasters of my chocolates so that people could actually try them to see what they tasted like and see which flavours they liked best and which ones that they could, pre-order in time for Christmas. And I got there early, set out the stall beautifully, had loads of nice things on the table that people could look at, things that people could read, things that people could take away. And I very, very quickly became one of the top favourites of some of the other people that were there, exhibiting and showing their stuff too. And people came by. The day was a little bit slower than I thought, so not as many people came by as I expected, but that was okay. Who doesn't want to try a chocolate or a cake? So I remember getting all of these things out and laying them out there. And people came and went. Many people came and tried the cakes. Many people came and tried the chocolates. And many people really complimentary about the stuff I did. They said it was amazing. I had flyers and stuff that I could give away about the training and coaching. And then it started to get towards the end of the day. And just towards the end of the day, I noticed that I still had quite a few cakes left. I baked absolutely a gazillion of them, all gift wrapped and wrapped in lovely boxes. And although people were coming and buying these cakes, and even towards the end of the day, I did what the good shops do, have two for the price of one and all of that kind of stuff. We still finished and ended the day with plenty of cakes left, plenty of chocolates left, and I felt great because lots of people had come by and now knew about my business, now knew about the training and coaching and the difference it could make into their lives. Also knew about the cakes and chocolates and that they could order some before Christmas. I'd had many lengthy conversations with people. And I remember as I packed my car up to go home with quite a few cakes and chocolates, and anyone that's kind of personally knew me around that time will remember me coming home and about 9 o'clock at night posting and saying, I've got loads of cakes at my house, please come and collect them. But one thing I felt as I went home was almost like a feeling of dread. And the feeling of dread came from, well, I had all of these cakes and all of these people came and experienced what I did. One of the other feelings of dread arose when I realised that I had no way of contacting these people that I'd been speaking to. So here's how I used this question, the learning question, the question of what would I do differently. I asked myself, because I recognised, so number one, recognise when you're about to go into this kind of downward spiral, you know, this way of thinking, this thought process that isn't any use to you, isn't very helpful to you. Recognise when you're about to do that. And then next, recognise that you can ask yourself this question, because in any given time, no matter whether we perceive something as good or bad, we always have a choice. So I got home, I'd made some money, so I was happy, but I had all these cakes left. So I recognised that I was about to go into this kind of downward spiral. So I got a piece of paper and a pen and wrote across the top of it, what would I do differently next time? Now, by asking that question, not what would I do that's better or different, better or, you know, how would I have not messed up or anything else like that. Asking myself what I would do differently next time gave me at that time the opportunity to think about what had happened in a different way. When you ask yourself, what will I do differently next time, you come up with creative and new ways to be able to do something slightly differently. So when I sat and asked myself at that time, what will I do differently next time? I came up with all sorts of things that I hadn't thought about before, and I just listed them line by line. I would tell more people about the event. I wouldn't just leave it up to the event organisers, but I would actually tell more people. I would ask more people who knew me to spread the word so that we got even more footfall. I would make sure that if somebody wanted to taste my cakes or try my chocolates, that I would have a list, even if it was just on a piece of paper with their name and contact details, that I would take before giving them the cakes, chocolates, or telling them about the training or coaching, so that I had a way of contacting them again after the event. So I had a way of following up with them to find out how they got on. I carried on this process and I wrote about 20 odd things, more than 20 things that I would do differently next time. The result of that was, number one, I didn't have that creeping, horrible feeling. I had this feeling of motivation. I had this feeling of, you know what, ultimate possibilities. There's more things that I can do in the future. And I also had a really nice checklist for if I was to do something like that again, I could go through and tick things off, which as a business owner who often exhibits or goes to sponsor different events and things like that was really, really useful for me. It was also really useful for clients who often ask me, well, I'm going to be doing this thing, what can I do? It's like, I've got the list. So I want you to think about that thing that you might be beating yourself up this morning that you've done, that you perceive you've done wrong, and ask yourself with that specific scenario, what would I do differently next time? And from that, start to notice the things that you write down that will propel you into a different mindset, but also propel you into a different direction. And that's the direction of opportunity and being able to create possibility. I'd love to hear how you use this tip throughout today or throughout your week. But I'd also like to hear if you've got questions and you don't understand kind of the best way to use it in your scenario, then by all means, put a message onto this video or contact me on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Jenny Make It Happen. I'd be really happy to respond. Oh, and if you feel like there's something that you would like to achieve to get a bit of Monday motivation in the future, please let me know. Please send me a message and I'll be more than happy to cover it in a future episode of Monday Motivation. I hope this has been helpful for you. So going back to my story of when I was a small child and I saw this great cake, one of the things that I was able to do to get to a place of making these beautiful cakes, these very different cakes that I made at the time, was by asking myself, as I made things, how could I do this differently the next time I make it? So what can I do differently next time doesn't just apply to if you perceive something has gone wrong. If you've done something brilliantly and it's worked really well, maybe you have done something at work that you've been recognised for. Maybe you did something really great with your family. Maybe you're looking at your diet and health and well-being and you've achieved something really great there. This question is just as equally useful to ask there as it is anywhere else. So, what will I do differently next time? Let me know how you get on with the question, because this led me to being able to make some, changes in the ways that I do things in life, changes in the opportunities that come. And thank you so much. Ian saying it's a great question to ask every time you complete a task or a project. And that's so true. And I know that, Ian, you do some great stuff out there in the world. So anytime you finish something or get to the end of something, before you move on to the next busy thing that life has to offer, ask yourself this question. I just want to acknowledge you, Ivona, and say, hi, good morning. So what will you do differently next time? So let me know how you get on with that question. I really look forward to seeing you again next week, and bring a friend or two. Or if there's somebody that you know that could do with a little bit of Monday motivation or motivation for their week, tell them about this page. Tell them to come along. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. I look forward to seeing how you get on with that, and keep coming back and let me know how you get on. Thank you so much. Happy Monday, and bye for now.